the other world premiere from the Sundance Film Festival that we're covering is Infinity Pool. This is by Brandon Cronenberg. And what we knew that it was about going in was it was a couple that was at a beach resort, and it was going to be a spoof of that. That's like the working theory that we had going into it. It's coming out in theaters. As we talked about earlier, you might be listening to it right now, planning to go to the movie. The version we saw was the NC-17 version of it. So
Yes.
in theaters is the rated R version. Honestly, ratings, I don't think it'll make that much of a difference in the movie. So what did we think of the movie? Immediately as we were watching the movie, I think within the first like minute, you talked about the imagery,
Yeah.
Brandon Cronenberg's direction. There was a shot of I think a light that he lingered
Yeah.
on. He has a very distinctive directing style.
I totally. As far as newish directors go, I think he's got the most distinct style to him, and it's not a rip of his dad at all. It's kind of its own thing. And yeah, he like lingers on like really strange things, and like this is like it's like a light that you'd find at like a dance club or something.
Yeah,
And it's just, and then that kind of leads to like these really disorienting twisting shots of like landscapes and like
the
beachfronts and
beach.
stuff.
Yeah,
And it was instantaneously, you're like, yeah, this is a Brandon Cronenberg movie for sure. Now, whether you like that or not, I think I like it,
right.
but I don't think it's for everybody.
No, it's not. And kudos to him, because when your last name is Cronenberg, people are immediately going to be thinking of body horror and how weird is this going to be.
Right.
And it does have body horror, and we'll get into the weirdness of his story.
Yes.
But you're right. Like, if I didn't know his last name, and if someone just said like, okay, watch this movie and tell me what you think, I wouldn't think like, oh yeah, this guy's trying to be David Cronenberg. Like, he does have a style that's all his own. Yeah, there's elements of body horror, and we'll talk about the sci-fi aspect and all of that right now. But he's doing his own thing, and I can really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Last night, like after we finished watching the movie, we were talking about kind of just very, very generically talking about what we felt about the movie. And you mentioned this is one of those movies that kind of doesn't have a point to it. And I was thinking about it today, and as we're preparing for the show, and I was like, you know what, this movie is filled with contradictions. Like it kind of doesn't have a point to it, but the whole movie also has this very heavy theme of I don't know how to describe it, tourists being bad.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, it's not as elegant as the menu at all.
No.
But it's just as highfalutin. and you kind of get like that same point to it. Like, it's not a world that I belong in, and he's inviting me into it.
You're right. And you know what it reminded me of today as I was thinking about it? The Great Gatsby, which is one of my all-time favorite books.
Right. Great book.
Great book. Convertible driving throughout.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of got this like it's another way I would like to like frame it for people, no pun intended, is like those paintings that you see that have like 10,000 things happening in them. And so you can't just looking at it all at once is overwhelming. You have to like pick out little chunks of it, and then you're like, okay, I digested that little piece. And that's kind of how this movie is. If you step back from it, you're like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Right.
But if you get like more compartment to the individual scenes and the individual relationships, it becomes more clear, even though it's still just out there. It becomes more digestible, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's one of those things where if you just take it viscerally, like it is what it is type of thing, then you watch it and you'll think like, oh my God, that was, I don't know what to think. It's a really crazy movie. But then once you start to examine it, like I said, beat by beat or brush stroke by brush, however you want to look at it, you see like, oh, there is some nonsense in it. There's some stuff that kind of, at least to me, doesn't make any sense. But then there's some parts that you're kind of like the character study of Alexander Skarsgård character. Like last night, I kind of got the whole like, oh, and spoiler alert, we're going to talk about little elements of, but we won't ruin anyone's. And this is a twisty story.
Oh, yeah.
But the Skarsgård character last night we were talking about. Oh yeah, they're just messing with him. And today I was thinking about. I was like, man, this is a complete character study of this one dude, from
Yeah.
him being this somewhat confident, if not completely confident for story element reasons, but he's got his act together. So by the end of the movie, he's a frothing animal.
Yeah, like, well, right. And like I've thought about him, hit that character a lot since last night. And the thing that I'm kind of coming away from it with is like he's kind of just he showed up to that place defeated, right? Like,
Yeah,
he's kind of a failure.
yeah,
And 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 he's got like he's one of those people that is so like I guess he's kind of so consumed by his own shit that he can't really even see what's like good right in front of him, you know? And this bizarre experience that starts to happen to him, his depression just he gets all consumed with like this new life, which is also maybe not all that it seems.
right. And what they do with that, it's because this movie can have so many messages in it, and it kind
Oh,
of does, but it kind of ignores them too. Like
right.
there's a very strong message about class in this, like big time,
Definitely.
like how the locals are treated, and how the locals treat them back, and then but how Skarsgård's new gang, his new group of friends, like they're head and shoulders above everyone else for financial reasons.
Right.
And it leads to like extreme hedonism and all kinds of craziness, but it doesn't really take a deep dive into it. Like and this is where it gets visceral. It doesn't like,
Yeah.
it's not really subtle, and it's not really like witty about it. It's like it's just in your face. Like
Right.
they're obnoxious, and they can be obnoxious, and here's what they're gonna do. And it's such a weird movie to me that it has all these different elements playing at the same time.
Yeah, and it's hard to imagine a movie that spends so much time on one character and have him, it's not that he's in the same place that he was before, but he's no better.
No.
you know, he's no better, he's worse. And you're kind of left going like, well, everybody else involved is just like evaporates and you're left with him again. And it's so much of it is about just him and what he's going through. To take it where it goes, I think is going to be very divisive.
It
And
is.
this is in thinking about it since last night, that's the conclusion I've kind of come to about this movie. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna
No, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I agree with you. This is, and we say this a lot, but there's either you love it or you hate it. There's no gray area type of movie. The movie as a whole, I think it does allow for some gray area, but I think
Yeah.
his story, and particularly how it winds up, that is going to be a love it or hate it type situation. The it's going to be, I think it's going to be really interesting to hear what people think about
Right.
how that, and just what they think about it all, because there's so many moving parts in this movie. We talked a lot about Skarsgård's character, but the other
Yeah.
major person in this is Mia Goth. I think she's just amazing in this movie. Like she goes from this seductive, kind of almost a femme fatale type character,
Yeah.
mysterious, into this batshit crazy, evil person. And I loved her performance the entire time. Jenna, we talked about this for Jenna Ortega, rightfully is like the scream queen everyone's talking about right now. But Mia Goth, I mean, she has the Ty West stuff. She's in A Cure for Wellness.
Oh yeah.
This Suspiria, I mean, she's good. She's a really good actress.
Yeah. As far as acting chops goes, find me a better one. Annie Taylor Joy, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mia Goth is pretty awesome in this. She is so multi-faced, like you said, and like to the like even this is one of the best like Jokers I've ever seen. Like she can put her in
yeah,
the Joker makeup and the clown makeup, and she could be the clown prince. Like she's insane in this, and then she's disconnected, and then she's very passionate, and man, you see so much from her. Super wide range. She was a super highlight. I would not be surprised if she gets a nomination of some high repute because of this.
yeah. This was good stuff. And then Cronenberg and his storytelling in this, like, it touches on a lot of things. The most obvious thing that they can do with this is, without getting too much into it, they could have gone with like a clone story with a twist at the end of so
Oh
what's
yeah.
real and what's not. It's just a talking point in this movie, which I thought
Yeah.
was so crazy because it's such a big element and it ends up meaning nothing. Which and I don't mean that in a bad way, but because
Yeah.
he had so many other story elements that he wanted to cover that the clone thing was just kind of like, it is what it is. Take it or
Yeah.
leave it.
Yeah, I love that they kind of like they didn't rush to the clone thing because I would say it's probably half an hour before you get to that point
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
movie. Um, but yeah, and you're I don't know about you, but I was sitting there thinking like, man, this whole movie is going to be like this gritty. In the back of this is going to be pumping out clones. This is going to be all grimy and like
Yeah.
very Cronenberg, and it totally doesn't do that.
No.
It totally flips your expectations, and yeah, I thought that was such a neat way to go about it. Yeah, yeah. I one thing I will say, I wish we'd gotten more of the gang, as you called them. Like I would have like you get a little bit of like why they're there and what happened and how they. I could have gone for 20 more minutes of gang related mischief.
Shenanigans. Yeah.
Shenanigans. Yes.
Totally. I agree with you. And this being a Brandon Cronenberg movie, there's like there's lots of blood and there's some the beatings. He has
Oh,
just a way of filming beatings that are really like you feel them, like you hear the pounding of flesh on flesh, very bloody. There's a part where someone's about to get stabbed, and you know it's coming because he's wearing a shirt that's cut right
so
where
he
the
could get
belly is.
stabbed.
So it's like, okay, this guy's getting cut asshole to appetite. And like, and then it's just a normal stabbing. And then at first I was kind of disappointed, but then it keeps on going and going and going. And you had mentioned like it's gonna end with practical effects and
Yep.
just that's where you get the stuff that's just in your face gross. And same thing with some of the more sexual content, and it's just in your face shocking. And it's this movie is a lot to take in.
Yeah. Oh man, this let me put it, my mom would hate this.
Oh my gosh, I'd be
You'd be
embarrassed
in
to
trouble.
watch. No, absolutely. This is not a movie you watch in front of like adults or anything
No,
like,
no.
or even, you know what, even people that are like close friends, because they kind of might wonder what's wrong with you.
Truly.
It's kind of a crazy movie, and it's not the
That
type of
said, us
thing.
degenerates sat on the same couch and thoroughly enjoyed
Oh
it.
yeah, just had a couple of beers and watched it. And this isn't a, I guess it is a humble brag. We watched an NC-17 version, so we
Yes, we
saw
did.
some
Yeah.
pump action Skarsgård going on here. So Infinity Pool, it's in theaters right now, so you can check it out. Blake, see or no see?
Yeah, you gotta see Infinity Pool. Theater bucks, baby. Go to it. Find a group of your weirdest friends and take them to go see this. And I'm curious to see the conversation that happens out of this. Yeah, you gotta see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Check this out. Where the weirdest, freakiest mask that you can think of. Watch it in theaters and then discuss it afterwards. And I don't know, break into a house or something. But
Yeah.
definitely check this movie out.